Hello and welcome to yet another tutorial by Davies Media Design. My name is Michael Davies, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to remove a solid color background from a JPEG logo. This is going to be using GIMP 2.10.12, which at the time of this tutorial is the latest version of GIMP. But of course, before I get into that, I want to direct you guys over to my website at daviesmediadesign.com. As always, I have tons of GIMP tutorials and Inkscape tutorials on here, as well as GIMP and Inkscape help articles, so definitely check that out. You can also enroll in my GIMP 2.10 Masterclass from beginner to pro photo editing on Udemy. You can support my channel and help me grow by becoming a patron on Patreon and get some awesome GIMP and Inkscape extras in return. And you can enroll in any of my Skillshare classes by visiting gimpschool.com. Here I have my logo opened up, and this was a JPEG logo with a white background. So I've gone ahead and removed the background on this. I also am going to show you guys a second logo on here just so you can see two different types of logos in action with this tool. Both of these logos for today's tutorial have a white background, but you can do this with any solid color background. If it does have a gradient background, it's a little bit more complicated than using this tool, but for the sake of simplicity, I just want to show you guys a simple method using solid color backgrounds. All right, so I'm going to come over here and go to File, Open Recent, and I'm just going to open up my first logo here. This is a 400 by 400 pixel JPEG image. So this is going to have a solid color background, and as it stands now, if I grab my eraser tool and try to erase this, it's just going to use my background color I have selected over here instead of showing transparency behind here. So I'll hit Control Z to undo that. And if I come over here to my layers panel, I'm going to start by right-clicking on my JPEG logo layer, and I'm going to come down here to Add Alpha Channel. By adding an alpha channel, you are adding transparency behind your JPEG image, so whenever you erase anything now, there's going to be this gray checkerboard background, which you'll see here in a moment, and that's going to represent transparency. And I'm just going to double click on this and rename this layer logo and hit the enter key. All right, next we're going to use the main tool for this feature, which is the Color to Alpha tool. And I can access this by coming over to Colors, Color to Alpha, and this option will not be available if you do not have an alpha channel on your image. So if you don't have transparency behind your image, the Color to Alpha feature will be grayed out. Just make sure you right click and go to Add Alpha Channel like we just did in the last step. So I'll click Color to Alpha. And here we have our gaggle feature. This is a gaggle icon right here. And right now I have the preview turned on, so if I uncheck the preview option, that'll turn this off. This is of course what our logo looked like before. And what you can do is come over here and grab your eyedropper tool and then click on here to select your logo background color as the main color to be used in this. In this case, because I am using white, I can just keep it at the default. And then your transparency threshold and opacity threshold allow you to really just adjust how sensitive this tool is going to be to that color you selected in terms of either creating transparency from that color or ensuring that opacity still remains even when you remove that color. So just to simplify things, I will demonstrate here. And to do this, I will have to turn on the preview option. So I'll hold Control and zoom in a bit. And by the way, some of you might be experiencing an issue such as if I click on here and select white, you might have your background looking more like this. And that's okay. All you have to do really is come over here to the transparency threshold and just change this value to 0.001. And then when you click on the opacity threshold, you'll see that all of that stuff will disappear. But now what I need to do, if I hold Control and zoom in, you can see the blue portion of my text here is disappearing a little bit, so it's a little bit transparent. And that's because this color blue does contain a little bit of those white pixels or the white pigment. And so the Color to Alpha tool is being a little bit too efficient here by actually erasing white inside of my blue color. And we want to keep that from happening. And so to do that, we're just going to decrease our opacity threshold until we get to a good point. So what we want is all of the blue pigmentation back, but we don't want any of the white color around the outlines here. And of course, with GIMP being a raster-based program, this will look pixelated when you zoom in a lot. And you can see down here, I'm zoomed in by 1600%, so this is zoomed in quite a bit. But I'm just gonna turn this up until I get a happy medium here. So maybe around just above 0.7. I can use the arrows to make some more fine adjustments. So let's go with 0.70 and hold Control and zoom out. So now you can see that our colors have been returned here and the white background has been deleted. Of course, the white inside of the lettering here has also been deleted, and that's an issue, but I'm going to show you guys how to easily add that white back in here in the next step. For now, I'm just gonna click OK. So our white background has disappeared. Let's add that white back into the main portion of our text in our logo. And to do that, I'll come over and create a new layer. And I'm just gonna name this white. I've done this earlier, so white's already here. And then down here under fill width, I'll choose transparency and click OK. So now we have a transparent layer above our logo layer. And what I'll do is hit Shift B on my keyboard or come over here and click on my bucket fill tool. And there's a new feature inside of the newer versions of GIMP, so if you don't have the latest version, definitely download that or update the version you currently have. And again, I'm using GIMP 2.10.12 for this tutorial. But under affected area, you have a feature called Fill by Line Art Detection. And this allows you to just fill in any areas that contain a line or a semi-enclosed line. It doesn't have to be totally enclosed. And to use this feature, all I have to do is click and drag my mouse inside of those lines I want to fill. So you can see the D has already been filled in very quickly. And we can do the same here with the A. And don't worry about the edges looking really jagged right now. We're going to fix that. But you do want to make sure you have any small pixel areas like that one right there filled in properly. Also, I don't recommend dragging your mouse outside of the lines here because it will cause GIMP to crash, or at least it used to. I'm not sure if it does anymore. But you can see that as I click and drag my mouse, it'll fill in my lettering. And the reason it filled in all of the lettering, even though I was on a separate layer, is because the Fill by Line Art Detection feature uses something called Sample Merged. So it's going to find lines in lower layers on any part of your composition and be able to fill those lines in here on a brand new layer. So in this case, our white layer up top. And because I have everything filled in on a separate layer, what I can do now is I can click and drag this white layer below the logo layer and release. And now you can see that the black lines from our Davies text here now cover up any of the jagged edges from the Fill by Line Art Detection fill that we did. So now we have everything filled in and the lines are looking nice and smooth. So what I can do is come over here to File, Export As, and now I can save this as something like DMD logo with no background .png. And by adding .png at the end here, that's allowing us to save this as a PNG file, and PNG files, of course, support transparent backgrounds. So I'll click Export, and I'll click Export again, and now our JPEG image is a PNG image with the transparent background. All right, so that was one logo example. I just want to do one other logo example so you guys have a couple of examples to help you out with your projects. And so I'll go to File, Open Recent, and come over here to Compost Denver logo.jpg. So this is a circular logo, but again, it has a white background and white text in the middle. And the first step I need to do is come over here, right click and go to Add Alpha Channel. Next, I'm going to grab my lasso tool and I'm going to select the areas that I want to make sure do not get erased. So in this case, it's going to be my lettering in the middle. I want to make sure that when I erase the white background, the lettering doesn't get erased. So I'm just going to select this with my free select tool. And I'm very loosely selecting this area. And I'll hit the Enter key. And then I'll hit Control I or go to Select, Invert. And that will invert my selection area. So now we have everything outside of this area selected. So all of this stuff. Then once again, I'll come over to Colors, Color to Alpha. And we already have white selected as our color. If you don't, you can just grab your eyedropper tool and click on your background area. And you can also click on another color, by the way, and it will erase that color. I'll just go with this white background, change the transparency threshold to 0.001, and then come over to the opacity threshold and just turn this down until all of the colors return that I want in here. So anything I don't want transparent, you want to make sure you drag this threshold slider until it does return. In this case, the lighter colors here contain a bit more white, so my opacity threshold is a little bit lower. I'll hold Control and zoom in to just check the edges of my logo here. You can see there is some transparency in this color here, so I will drag it down a bit more. Just make sure no white returns right here. That looks pretty good. So I'll click OK. Now if I hit Control-Shift-A or go to Select, None, that will deselect my selection area. And now, of course, what we're left with, again, is a logo with no background. And of course, we could save this as a PNG file, much like we did the last file. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. If you liked it, you could check out any of my resources in the description of the video. You can also subscribe to my channel and click the little bell icon to be alerted anytime I have a new upload. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.